Congress received an allegation that an IRS agent provided a false name to an Ohio taxpayer as part of a deception to gain entry into the taxpayer's home to confront them about delinquent tax filings. But when the taxpayer objected to the IRS agent's tactics, the IRS agent insisted, quote, that he could go into anyone's house at any time as an IRS agent, then goes in there and changes what the issue is actually about.
This agent shows up, identifies himself as Bill House with the IRS Criminal Division, and seeks to speak with the person at the house about some estate filings, said that it was something about the property that wasn't completely done right. And so the taxpayer at that point thinks, okay, this is something we can discuss, but had never had any sort of notice come from the IRS. As they always say, you know, you'll get something in the mail from the IRS. They won't call you. But this was an unannounced visit. The agent then goes into the home and starts speaking with the taxpayer. But when the taxpayer says all those things you're talking about, when the family member passed away, we were able to make sure everything was covered. Then changes the story and says it's actually not about the property at all, but it's about some delinquent tax returns, so some 1040 forms from the deceased family member. When that change happens, when it goes from being about the property to then the 1040s of the deceased family member, the taxpayer calls her attorney immediately and says, wait a second, something's not right. Something seems fishy. She's a little nervous that maybe this is a scam. And then the attorney speaks with the agent, says, I will handle this. You need to leave the home of the taxpayer. And that's when, to the attorney representing the taxpayer, the agent says, I am an IRS agent. I can be at and go into anyone's house at any time I want to be. So clear violation of the Fourth Amendment there about illegal search and seizure. So then finally, they get the agent to leave. The taxpayer calls the police and says, here's the tag of the agent. I'm concerned this may be a scam. I'm not sure what's going on. They run the plate, pull up a different name, and contact the owner of that vehicle. And that person says, yes, I'm an IRS agent. I used an alias when I was in there. I wasn't using my real name. Admitting this to the police.
Admitting that they're lying even who they are.
Yeah.
That's
and the
crazy.
Police department says, listen, you need to not go back to the home of that taxpayer. Handle it through official business. But right now, something is not right. That prompts the agent to file a complaint with the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration against the police department.
Think about it. If this person hadn't have taken a stand, they would currently be paying the IRS money they did not actually owe. And that was the goal of this agent. I think I could get this person to pay money they don't owe. It was all done in bad faith. Every step of the way. Lying about their name. That can't be okay.
Finally, the taxpayer on May 4th speaks with the supervisor of this Agent Haus, which is not their real name, and clarified nothing's owed on the estate, everything's in order, and the supervisor even admits that things should never have gotten this far. So admitting something's wrong, then the next day, the very next day, the taxpayer receives a letter from the IRS, the very first one that they've received, saying there's a delinquent tax filing on the deceased family member's estate. Calls the supervisor back, says that's an error, ignore it. And then finally, on May 30th, so well over a month that this taxpayer has been living with this horror story, they get a letter from the IRS saying, case closed, nothing to see here, move along.
Sorry, we harassed you. Like a M. Night Shyamalan movie.
You would think that there's someone trying to steal your identity or actually like take the title from your home. Like those horror stories you hear about in some of the ads for some of those companies that do that protection. You wouldn't realize, is this person that? Or are they really an agent of the federal government? I mean, here we had someone, just briefly, Logan, who literally used a fake ID, enters someone's private home under false pretenses, says it's about one issue, then sits them down with paperwork and says, no, it's another issue. So right off the bat, they lied to get inside your door. They lied about their name. They lied about why they were there. And then they try to get you to sign documents before you've even consulted an attorney.
There's only two explanations, and to me, they're both bad, which is like, there's like an evil explanation of like this guy went in there trying to do something bad, or they are hiring really bad people at their jobs.
Well,
People who
when they
think
put
they
out
could go in and be
hiring-
like, I'm an IRS agent. Now I get to go be James Bond. That's not how this works.
That's who they are putting out advertisements
Right.
with people wearing full body
Flak
armor
jackets and
semi-automatic weapons and saying you need to be both an accountant and willing to shoot to kill. I want to remind you, we exist because if this happens to you, you get the ACLJ to stand next to you. So you don't have to be afraid of speaking up. And more people have got to speak up, because if an agent acted this way, he didn't just act this way to this person. This has been a strategy he's been utilizing probably over and over and over again to get people to do things they shouldn't be doing before they consult an attorney or somebody who's a specialist before signing documents, being pressured to sign documents at their home.